Hello, and welcome to episode number 14 of A Pathetic Podcast. I am Christian, and I am joined, as always, by the most beautiful person ever, Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
God, what the fuck's up, YouTube? Anyway, before we get into things, I want to make sure that anybody who wants to keep up with me, make sure to follow my Twitter at Dr. Phil. That's DRPHIL.
Yeah, and not at Scented Gladbag.
It's my Twitter is not at Scented Gladbag. It's not, my username is not Scented Gladbag. You can follow me at Dr. Phil.
And just so everyone is on the same page, make sure you follow and then unfollow him, please.
Dude, that is such a crock of shit bit, and I'm frankly fucking sick of it.
Well, too bad. It's staying forever because, everybody's on my side in this argument.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I have an army of 192 followers.
You know, that's cool and everything, but they're all on my side, too.
That's such bullshit. Shut the fuck up. I'm laughing, but I'm actually mad.
That's what makes it funny. So this week, just us again. We're going to start hopefully getting guests in here soon, but this episode is kind of like a prep episode for whenever we do have guests in the future. We actually have an actual theme/format today. So we, like I said, we're going to try to get more guests hopefully soon. So we will be doing that soon. Anyway, so, almost every single week we end up talking about how we played music together as a kid.
Yeah, and then that inevitably turns into a giant nostalgia binge.
Right. And it's almost always focused around music. And something I realized, I think last week while we were talking about it, was we always talk about like our friends in music and the music that we played and everything, but we haven't really given like our like music history, like personal music history.
Or like what we listened to actually, or like
like where it came from for us. You know what I mean?
Mine is so fucking stupid. It goes from anything but like if you were to look at my entire music history, you'd be like, okay, so this guy discovered music in a 2002 Mardell.
Pretty much. Hey, I'm basically the same way though, except for it was a combination of a 2002 Mardell and Mix 1029, which was almost solely Matchbox 20 at this point, and then my dad's music. So.
There's these T-shirts you can get that are like it's something like, sorry I didn't hear you, I was listening to the smash hit Smooth by Rob by Rob Thomas featuring Santana. Just stupid ass shit.
Listen, I'll talk shit about it all day, but low-key I fucking love Matchbox 20 and Rob Thomas.
Oh dude, it's one of those things that you can admit to your guilty pleasure in adulthood, but like sometimes I'm just chilling, I'm like, I don't want to be lonely no more. That shit goes. Absolutely. Dude.
But anyway, what we're going to do, and this is something that we'll do like once we actually have guests and kind of to kick off this conversation of our music history, is we've kind of set up like a little game. And the game is going to be a personal music history game. We'll probably call it personal music history or whatever the fuck we end up naming it. But the idea is that you're going to name 3 bands or artists from different periods of your life, right? So the first period is going to be when you're a kid and whatever your parents listened to in the car that got you listening to music initially. So like, when you're a toddler up until you're about 6 or 7. The second period is going to be when you start listening to music on your own. So this is like from like 8 to like 11, 12 or so. And then you have when you started high school. So that's kind of like when you first hit puberty and, you start branching out and it takes a dramatic turn for a lot of us. And then when you leave high school, because usually by the time you start high school, by the time you leave high school, you have pretty different tastes. And then the last period will be what you're listening to now. So we'll kind of do those periods, and we'll do that moving forward with guests as well. But today we're going to do that for the 2 of us. So you're going to hear all the bullshit that we listen to throughout our lives.
It's funny because there's going to be periods of time during this where you can tell that I was totally a fucking fad follower, and I wasn't like, I like this music. It was like, oh, that's what's cool now. I have to listen to that.
1,000%. So what we'll do for us, since we're both going to play the game at the same time, is I'll say the period, Pat will go, and then I will go. and then the next period Pat will go, and then I will go, and then we'll do it that way. So we're on the similar topic each time.
We're trying for a little, like a smidge of structure. Like, please, sir, please spare a smidge of structure because we fucking go off way too much.
We get a little too chaotic sometimes.
I want us to be more listen toable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and we're going to have more guests and shit, so.
Yeah, it'll make more sense later on down the line.
Well, let's get it popping.
Yeah, let's do it. So first period is when you're a child, what you listen to in your parents' car. Pat, go 3 bands/artists.
All right, first of all, my parents in no way influenced me to play music. This is just what they were playing in their car. So we had Christian pop group Avalon. Bet you I don't remember Avalon.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay, so it was like Avalon, like Rich Mullins, who was like, "Our God is an awesome God."
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
And then what was the Stephen something who did this one was like, "I am speechless." Do you fuck?
No, I don't remember that one.
Fuck. God damn it. So it'd be like, he was a huge Christian artist, that and like Michael W. Smith. So my parents are real into like the Christian contemporary shit and the forced punished me to listen to, which is probably why I'm like an atheist now.
Yeah, like the Jesus shit that my parents listened to, well, specifically my dad, was and these don't count as my 3 because I'm not using these as my 3. But the like Christian stuff that he listened to was like DC Talk and like,
dude, DC Talk went so fucking hard. Dude. Are you kidding? Dude.
Like DC Talk and like Newsboys. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Are you fucking kidding? Oh, dude, DC Talk and like Newsboys and shit. We didn't realize it, but like because of when that shit was coming out, it was so clearly following like the stylistic fads of like the new metal era.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, dude, if you go look at promos of those bands, especially which one did Colored People? Was that DC Talk? I think so.
No. Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't
Oh, no, it was Shine. It was DC Talk.
Yeah.
Dude, if you go look at old pictures of them from then, they had like dreadlocks and shit.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
well,
this is so
and
good.
DC Talk and Newsboys are definitely 2 different eras, too, because DC Talk was like 90s, like early 90s.
Yeah.
And they were like trying to be early 90s hip hop with
Yeah.
like the weird fucking
Literally,
dance pants
yes.
and shit like that.
Shine, make a woman what you got.
That's Newsboys.
Wait, which one? Are you sure? Dude,
Yeah.
are you sure?
DC Talk is the rap stuff.
Dude, are you, dude?
Yes, that is 1000% Newsboys.
Dude, if we find this out later in post, I want you
Look
to
it up.
Okay, you know what? All right, so
You have a computer right behind you. Have the keyboard in front
hold
of
on,
you.
I'm just
You
gonna
can
use my
your
cellular phone because
Oh my
I'm nearsighted.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
but that one is 1000% Newsboys. We're gonna. So while he's looking that up and confirming that I'm right, I'll go for my 3. My 3 when I was a kid, and this is mostly for my dad. I don't remember. Well, I'll give 1 from my mom, and then I'll give 2 for my dad because I remember my dad's more, but I do remember 1 specifically for my mom, driving around in my mom's car. So for my mom's car, the thing that I most remember is probably going to be Duran Duran. It's like a 50-50 split between Duran Duran and Bon Jovi because my mom was like, 80s fangirl, so she liked bands like that. But then in my dad's car, the stuff that we listened to was the acts that I remember the most were Rush and Frank Zappa.
So you had things that were actual musical influences.
Yeah, I had actually like good stuff to listen to, but also preface this with my dad is a musician. My dad he's a choir teacher, but he is a musician, so I have that going for me.
You're right, by the way. I don't want to say that.
I know I was right.
I really wish I should have just lied right now instead of giving that to you, but
Let me explain to you why I knew I was right, though. My dad had a DVD of the Newsboys in concert. So my dad's a musician, and most of the work that he's done in my life, like previously before I was born, he was in bands and like he toured and everything like that. But the most of the work that he did in my life was working in churches as like a music minister. And so like he had a DVD of the Newsboys live in concert, and he watched it all the time.
dude, I'm not kidding. I think I
All the
literally had that. I'm not kidding.
And it was constant because he had to learn the songs to play them in church. So he would just over and over and over again watch all that
So
stuff.
I literally think DC Talk is the one that did the Colored People song. I'm pretty sure. If Newsboys was Shine, then DC Talk was the other one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because Newsboys was Shine and Take Me to Your Leader.
Dude, Newsboys were wavy as shit. That's so funny.
What was that other one? Oh, the Breakfast song. Do you remember the Breakfast song?
Oh, please remind me because I remember listening to it.
When the toast is burned.
Yes! Oh my god! Oh my dude. Okay, so like again, very Mardell of us because Mardell, shouts out Mardell for young folks that had Christianity forced down their throats. They're like, okay, at least we'll give them like the cooler music, like.
Well, and VeggieTales.
And dude shouts the fuck out in VeggieTales. Yo, what the fuck's up, Larry the Cucumber? What was the tomato's name? Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
Dude shouts the fuck out, Bob the Tomato. Hey, yo, shouts the fuck out. That episode that was Larry the Cucumber, Bob the Tomato, and the asparagus dude, and they were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah,
I was like, dude,
one.
this is like how fucking trippy is it? Imagine just like taking an eighth of shrooms and watching the VeggieTales version of like, dude, like why are they like this is deep, but why are they vegetables? Like what does it mean? Who the fuck was like he was like, I want to tell Christian stories, but I want them to be early Pixar style vegetables telling the Christian stories. Like, dude, dude, you know that there was some dude that was like, okay, so they're gonna be vegetables, right?
By the way, this is also a fair warning to anybody who's like trying to push Christianity down your kids' throats. This is what they turn into.
Yeah, they turn into a couple fat bitter bastards, a couple fat bitter atheist bastards. That's what you get, and I'm sunburnt too. You're gonna have a red one.
You want to know what's funny though is that I don't think my parents necessarily pushed Christianity down my throat. I was just in church all the time because my dad worked in churches.
Oh, dude, so it's different. Before we go off and do a tangent too much, we can get to the next thing.
Yeah.
Basically, my family were not, until I was like, I think 3 or 4 years old, there was no form of church or anything. One day, I think my dad was like mowing the lawn, and I love my parents to death, by the way, but I'm extremely anti anything religion. And so they, because I'm so fucking edgy, right?
Yeah.
So my dad was mowing the lawn, he said one day, and I guess he thought like God spoke to him or something, or just some, I think too, a lot of times, complacent adults will look for purpose. So I think that's probably part of where that came from.
Yeah, I've always noticed that too with like the born again style.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they need something, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think so. My dad, he basically the whole family all of a sudden started going to church like overnight, and then we got so fucking deep into it, and I just had to be along for the ride. Like I remember literally being like 6 years old, like in a church. I was like, God, this is horseshit. Like I just want to go home.
Did y'all start in Methodist churches?
Yes, always Methodist, which is like the party denomination, dude. Methodist,
yeah.
Methodist, like, well, also shouts out Methodist because Methodist, like, before it was cool, before it was in, we're like, yo, you're gay, what's up? Come to church, dog, we're friends.
Yeah, so I went to Episcopalian churches first, which
Oh,
are
you staunch bastard.
so boring. And this is always my mom's explanation is because she liked the prettiness of it because, like, they have, like, the stained glass windows and they do, like, the hymns and shit
very
like that.
Baroque, but it's just
yeah,
like,
dude. Oh, my God.
and not Baroque, Baroque. Shouts out art history.
Baroque, yes. It's torture for a fucking 5-year-old.
Also, too, man, Episcopalian churches, like my part of my extended family was all from that denomination. They were always like, literally, they would pray and then they would take 3 breaths and be like, and now we're going to pray. And then they would stop and then be like, and now we're going to pray. And it'd be like these fucking 2-hour sermons that were just like, God fucking damn it, dude, this is such horseshit.
Dude, did y'all have any weird, like, food prayers at your house? Like
Yes.
pre-meal prayers?
Yeah, absolutely.
That, like, were for kids for sure?
Oh, not for kids specifically. Like we didn't have rehearsed ones, but like it's so creepy to me to think about the fact that like before we would eat a meal, we'd be like, all right, now Patrick, are you going to say the prayer tonight? And like, dude, it's so fucking, dude, it creeps me out to think about how much of a cult to me that is. Again, I respect everybody that is religious. I'm not trying
we're
to be
shitting on our childhoods, not necessarily religion.
Oh, but anyway, where I was going with that, eventually it got so deep that my mother became a preacher, and my family pretty much were like, hey, Pat, I know you're still a kid, but you good? You're just going to hang out at home? We're going to go do our preacher thing. My sister was already a grown-up at that point, so
Yeah.
it was a little bit, I mean, as you remember, I was pretty much just kind of, not raising myself, but I was pretty much just like formulating my own life.
My parents didn't really give up making me go to church until after I was like 13, I think.
Well, my parents, like, there was like a 6th grade party at someone's house that like the first week of youth group that I was supposed to go to was that night, and it was like all the people that I'd gone to school with since I was in like pre-K, and it was this big party, and I was like, Mom, can I please just stay here? It's gonna be the last time I see some of these people. Obviously in a way less wise way because I was, fucking 12.
Yeah.
And she was like, nope, we have to go to youth group. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I've had a slight resentment for that forever.
Dude, also, was youth group more boring to you than regular church?
No, actually, God, I would have never done anything bad had I not.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I would have never underage drank, et cetera. I don't want to go into anything else, but I would have never done anything bad had I not met up with my youth group. So
Yeah, that's because you had cool people at your youth
yeah,
group.
hell yeah, dude. My youth,
And
like,
I've had youth groups. So like I said, my dad worked at churches,
Yeah.
and he worked at different churches. And like at some churches, the youth group was cool, but dude, like I've been to some churches where the youth group is like
a
it's
wet
so
paper towel.
boring because they try to make it like, come on, kids, have fun with the Lord. And
Yeah, or
it's
they'll be like, if you've never said this prayer before, meet me in the back and we'll force indoctrinate you into a religion that you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, man, like mine was really cool, but that's also because there was a bunch of people that have been well ingrained in that church for a long time, and we all were very much rebelling against it. So we weren't like a youth group in the traditional sense. Like we would go to whatever we had to. But we were bad kids, man. But anyway, I guess to the next step of the game
all right,
because
yeah,
I tangent too far.
next step, yeah, we definitely took it too far.
Sorry, I'll stop doing that shit, man. It's just so fun to talk about.
I think it works for this time. When we do the game in the future, we'll kind of nip the continued
Like
conversation.
do a round
in the
table
bud,
and not get
but,
it too far, yeah.
Yeah, since this episode is formatted around this, we can go off on
Okay, cool.
tangents.
I mean, this is going to be a shorter episode, by the way, because later today, we're going to finally be on Jimbo's Paradise. And that makes us feel like the most unimportant broadcast media tour of all time, like the most unfamous media tour ever. But we're going to be on another podcast so that you'll
It
hear
is
about
going to be
later.
fun, and his podcast is significantly better than
Dude,
ours. So
it's
if
so
you
much-
listen to ours and don't listen to his, you're fucking up.
But anyway, next step.
Next step is when you first get into your own music. So this will be from like I said, it's like I say from like 8 to 12, but you know it's a kind of weird range where it could be anywhere from like even as young as like because I remember the first band that I really got into, and I'll go into it when I get into my part, but I was like 6. So
Well, you can go first for yours this time.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll go first. The first band that I really got into by myself, well, not by myself, but in like that I listened to outside of my family was System of a Down.
Oh, fuck yeah, absolutely.
So System of a Down, the way that I got into it was a funny story too. I rode the bus as a kid, like I rode the bus to and from school, and this kid had a burned copy of Toxicity, or like a bootleg copy of Toxicity, and this was like around the time that it came out. It might have been like a year or two after, because I think it came out in like 99 or 98.
Yeah, like it came out when we were very small children because I think like Mesmerize and Hypnotize came out in like 2004 or something.
Yeah, I was in like maybe middle school and Mesmerize, or no, I was in.
I was in 7th grade, so you were
Yeah, I was in 6th grade. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so System of a Down was like the first band that I really, really got into. And then the next one was Green Day. Like me and 2 other friends from my schooling, like that were kind of like, we were like the group for a little while. They were like my best buds. We got really fucking into Green Day for a while, like super hard. And they leaned more towards, so like when American Idiot came out, they leaned more that way. And somehow I was leaning that way, and then I broke off into the old shit, and I started listening to like Kerplunk and like the more like punk style stuff that they used to do.
Which is why you lean more towards punk stuff, and I lean more towards like the deep like rock opera shit because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so System of a Down, and then Green Day, and then I guess for the third one, I'm trying to remember a good one. I don't know. I would have to say, as upsetting as it is now, Lost Prophets came out when I was around 9 or 10.
Oh, that shit goes so hard.
And I got really, really into Lost Prophets.
Like, fuck that singer for everything he did, but like, dude, Lost Prophets went so
I might have
hard.
been a little bit older. I might have been like 12.
I mean, they were
when
like the early 2000s, so
Yeah.
it was that whatever, not that strict.
But I hit that like style though that around that time. So that was like pre high school. I hit that style of like Lost Prophets. I really loved. I love Story of the Year. Around that time,
Of our dying day.
yeah, like the weird it was my pre-introduction to my emo phase, which will be the next phase that I talk about.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited for that.
But yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so mine, I got 3 crispy ones for you. The first one is these are completely different, by the way. So like, first ones are like the prepubescent, like preteen things that I got into because they were just like music, and like you feel things so much more back then. And the third one is what literally like the third album is the reason I know you and everybody else in my life. Literally everybody else in my life. So the first one is easy. That's going to be the Linkin Park. Oh, was it Meteor that had Numb on it?
Yes, Meteor.
Because I remember I had never cared
Damn,
about
that's
Linkin
another one
Park.
too.
Oh, dude.
But I lumped that Linkin Park in with mine for like the pre-emo
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
Because like even like Linkin Park and like Deftones and stuff at the time, like that and Incubus, I got into Incubus too.
Literally, that's like
That
the
all
post new metal era.
yeah,
Kinda,
that
yeah.
all kind of lives in the same bubble for me.
So the only reason I got into them though, it wasn't because I was just like looking for the most metal bit. Because back then I was actually like into like I had been listening to like Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. Like I was thinking like just this rap ass shit, like this like rap like crunk ass shit when I was like 12.
Fuck
But
yeah.
but the first one, Linkin Park Meteor, because I saw the Numb music video on TV, and I remember being like 10 or 11, being like, just God, yeah, to toe, like hell yeah. And then the second one, dude, you're gonna like this one. Usher's Confessions
Oh,
is a
dude.
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 So that came
That's one for me though. Too.
yeah, for
That's
sure.
1000%.
So that came off the tail end of me being into all like this rap and shit, and like again, Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. Lil Jon is in that like on Yeah, which was like, dude, that song took over the like
Dude, yeah,
what
that was insane.
what Old Town Road is right now is what Yeah was.
I
in,
think
like,
Yeah was significantly bigger
for
than
sure,
Old Town
yeah,
Road.
for sure. But I'm talking about just in terms of like a hit song taking over the planet for a while. But like our dude, outside of Yeah though, Yeah was like a hit song on that record, but the rest of that album is a fucking masterpiece,
Dude, it's so good.
So, dude, I'm not even gonna like. Dude, this is my confession. Like, dude, that shit, dude. That album is so fucking good, and I need to revisit that actually because I haven't thought about it
I
till
haven't
today.
listened to it in a long time either.
But the third one is
The one that I know.
the third one, the one you know. The moment I listened to this record, and I got a weird start with this band because I started my love for them with this record when it was a brand new record. So in 2003, I was going on, I think a youth group like field trip or something. And back then we all had like our portable CD players. You remember that everybody had that would like skip all the time if you like
Yeah.
breathe wrong. And I was going through my sister's CDs just to steal something. And I think this was like 6 months after Blink's self-titled record came out. And at that point, I didn't know anything post-hardcore influence. I didn't listen to anything punk. I didn't, I just literally, I was like, oh yeah, this is some band that I see that's popular. Like I think my Uncle Jack bought my sister that record. So I stole her Blink CD for this trip. And I remember listening to it, and that was the first, like, I guess, because it was a self-titled record, it wasn't like their popular stuff at the point, which I got into later, obviously, but this was like the first thing I'd ever heard without realizing that was post-hardcore influence. Because think about Stockholm Syndrome, dude. That
Yeah, for sure.
And like it was the first darker record I had listened to, and it just like, and I think that record still really holds up, even removing my bias. A lot of people feel the same way. And that album completely shaped everything because that's the first time I heard something. I was like, oh my God, I want to learn how to play an instrument. If I had never heard that album, I would have never forced myself to go to a show. I would have never learned instruments. I would have never played in a band. And literally like even it's a butterfly effect because small things like listening to that record made me get into music, which led me to meeting you, which led me to working certain jobs I've worked, which leads me to being, it's funny because like literally that record, it sounds so fucking dramatic for me to say, but like literally I could draw you the lines. That record completely set the course for my life.
So and that's kind of like me with Green Day in a weird way because
Yeah.
it's not so much a record as I just really wanted to be Mike Dirnt for a long time.
Why out of all characters in that band, why him?
I don't know. I liked his bass parts, and I liked.
Now he wrote cool shit, but
Well, that's why I started playing bass. Like I started playing bass in like the fifth grade, I believe. Yeah, fifth grade, and that was right around the time when American Idiot came out. But I had been listening to Dookie a lot, and the bass parts on Dookie are fucking fantastic.
Speaking of Jimmy Green, he was a huge Green Day fan growing up, right?
Good.
And so
Everybody should be.
Everybody should be. But he was like, Green Day to him was like what Blink-182 is to me.
Yeah.
So like we'd be in the car sometimes, like because he's a couple years older than me, so we'd be driving around his car. Like this was like way later. This was like he'd be playing his old stuff. He'd be like, I'd be like 19, 20. He'd be a couple years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just play Green Day in the car, and I would just start impersonating Billy Joe just to piss him off. So, like, he'd play a song, and I'd be, get my dog, hey. And he'd just be like, dude, shut the fuck up. But what's the next phase?
Next phase. So the next phase is going to be a little bit weird for me because this was when my kind of expansion of music happened. like I started listening to a bunch of shit around this time. So this is like when you first go into high school. So I'm lumping this as like basically 7th grade into 9th grade.
Okay.
So once again, very weird period of time for me. I don't know if I can really narrow it down into 3 acts, but I'll try to.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard for me too. But yeah.
The first one I'll say is probably one of the more major like musical influences of the time was Under Oath, because Define the Great Line came out around that time, and I just got obsessed.
That
with
came
that
out my
record.
freshman year in
Yeah, I
2006.
was in
Yeah.
8th grade. Yeah,
Shouts out Mardell.
dude, I was obsessed with that record. It's still a fucking.
I was gonna
great
say, dude,
record,
that
by the
literally
way.
like there's certain albums that still hold up, and that's one of them. Like just like the Blink record, the self-titled. Like I would throw away every other Blink record if I could keep the self-titled. But same thing with Under Oath. I love everything that band has ever put out. No joke. But I would, and I'm not the new album. The new album's a sack of shit, in my opinion.
I haven't even listened
Don't
to
do
it.
it.
No.
It'll ruin them. Actually, you might like it, but Define the Great Line is one of those records that I think will hold up forever because it did so much for the genre, and it was
yeah.
so. Because I mean, Chasing Safety was. I remember. I remember when Chasing Safety came out, seeing the end cap at Mardell, and I was like, oh, that's one of the bands that actually got me into metal. But that album was in that genre and that time. First of all, that album came out at the perfect time. If that album came out in any other era, it would have never been as big.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
also
their marketing was insane for it too.
Yeah.
So like the reason that I think I've got into Under Oath so much, and like this is also one of the reasons why my music taste was so weird at the time, was because at Hot Topic, shout out, everybody know you shopped at Hot Topic in middle school. At Hot Topic, they used to do these things called Music Equals Life, like, and they had like a DVD CD set of like of like stuff on there. So like the stuff that would be in there would be like Under Oath. That's where I first learned about Chiodos.
it's like the Warped Tour comps too, man. It was similar. Yeah.
It's like where I first learned about Devil Wears Prada, like before they got like it was even before the record with HTML Rules Dude came out. Like it was pre that.
Pre
Yeah.
pre that?
Yeah, it was pre that.
Was this the one that had like Texas is South on it and shit?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that Texas is South one was my first.
Don't want to
Devil
say
Wears
this what I
Prada
got it, but we are the Devil Wears Prada.
song. Yeah.
Ding ding.
So like that was where the first one that I got, it had like all that stuff on it, and the song it had which I'm trying to remember which song from Chasing Safety it had on it.
Was it Chasing Safety or was it from Define?
No, it was from Chasing Safety.
It was probably Reinventing Your Exit, because the first time I heard of Under Oath was hearing Reinventing Your Exit on a compilation. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Reinventing Your Exit. It was they had Boy Brushed Red on the audio one.
Was it
and
It's
then-
Dangerous Business? Was
yeah,
it?
It's Dangerous. Yeah, and they had So like I watched the DVD ones and listened to the CD. So it was 2 DVDs and a CD. And on the CD they had Boy Brushed Red, and then on the DVD they had fucking Dangerous Business. And so I got really obsessed with just those songs for a while. And then when Define the Great Line came out, they released the music video for Writing on the Walls first, and they were just fucking blasting it on Fuse at the time.
Yeah, and they were also that was right in the middle of the time where like creepy music videos were cool. Like even like Franz Ferdinand was putting out like creepy music
creepy
videos. So
music
that
videos,
shit worked out so well. Speaking of Dangerous Business, so we have Under Oath, but before we get to your next band,
I still have 2 more to go.
My friend Garrick, who's a good friend of mine growing up, you probably met him back in the day. I haven't talked to him in years, but my friend Garrick would always play that song, and the part where like my knuckles have turned to white.
Yeah.
He would always be in his car and he would sing it. We would jam that song and he would be like, "My nipples have turned to white." And God, dude, is the funniest fucking shit.
So when you first told me that story, I started doing that after that.
Nipples have turned to my nipples have turned to white.
Well, I know you've heard it before, but technically one of the earlier bands that I was in covered that song.
Fuck yeah,
and
I've
there's a
heard that.
recording of us playing it live. I'm never going to tell anybody what it is or where you could find it.
Isn't Brendan in that too?
Yeah. Yeah, our friend Brendan was in that. He was the singer for that band. But
Okay, so there's Under Oath. Who else you got?
yeah, so I didn't even finish my story.
Oh, I'm sorry,
on-
dude. I probably cut you the fuck off.
No, I was just saying. So the marketing was so good because they did the Writing on the Walls video, and they just blasted it on Fuse 24/7. And so like for
All the time.
those who didn't grow up in that era, like Fuse was like that was where you got your music, because they had like Warped Wednesday when Warped Tour was like in its prime.
Fuse was the best channel ever, dude. We had Stevenson Huddle Rock Show.
And then Mark Hoppus' show ended up getting on there.
I love that. My sophomore year, I used to watch A Different Spin with Mark Hoppus every fucking day.
Yeah, so Fuse was like gigantic for us at the time. And so they released a music video, and then they had Best Buy commercials for the record, and that's how I ended up getting mine, because I got the special edition with the DVD in it because the Best Buy commercials. So marketing team for that record, you did a fucking fantastic job, because it got me.
Speaking of Fuse, there was a band. I don't know if they're still going, but Dan Hunter was in a band called I think they were called Analog Rebellion later. But he was in an immensely popular band that signed to Island Records from here called Play Radio Play.
Yeah.
And I remember after seeing Play Radio Play a million fucking times with like Knockout Kings at the Door Fort Worth. It was so, because he really was good, man. He was literally sounded like Hello Goodbye in the era that Hello Goodbye was huge.
Yeah.
So he was, just this guy that we, would play shows in Fort Worth, and then he signed to Island, and then I remember seeing him like on the cover, or not on the cover, but in AP, and then I remember seeing his music video on Fuse, and I was like, shouts out, dude, that's so fucking awesome.
Maddie, dear, can't
We just disappear and take our chances.
Yeah, we're dipping way back in.
Okay, but
so yeah, Under Oath was one. Like I said, this era is hard to talk about because I have just like so much.
This is the golden era, dude.
Yeah, it was so good. So I have to give one to Under Oath. Another really fucking weird one that I have to give it up to was, and once again, this is from the Music Equals Life thing, was for some reason I latched on to Madball at the time. I didn't have any hardcore
You're so
friends.
fucking core. You're so.
I didn't have any hardcore friends. I wasn't actively going to the shows like in the scene that I would end up being in.
Look at you pandering to the 12 hardcore scene.
I hate it so much, but I really did. I got in. They had the Heaven Hell song on there, like. Feels like I'm caught between heaven and hell.
There's this band that's out right now that's obviously satire called Face Wreck, and dude, it's I mean maybe they're not, but like they're like the epitome of like the tough guy. Like remember when like X Represent X and like all these shred edge bands are out?
Yeah.
They're literally like the music is very like early 2010s hardcore tough guy stuff, and all their lyrics are like I'll never betray the pit and just stupid shit. But that reminds me of that.
So the reason that I have to give it up to Madball, though, and it's not just because I got into Madball, which I did, and I was a fucking douche, but and of course, like Madball did not fit in with what I was like, what my aesthetic was at the time. Like I had the swoopy hair and shit like that. But Madball got me into like old hardcore, and like during high school, well. Pre-high school technically, but I got really into 80s hardcore because I listened to Madball, looked up hardcore in the internet, and then went into the fucking deep dive of like Bad Brains, Minor Threat, Black Flag, like SSD. I got really big into SSD for a while. Like I just went down that whole rabbit hole because of Madball, so I have to give it up to Madball, and that was during that period of time.
I had a friend named Pilar, and I hope she's doing well now. I haven't talked to her in 15 fucking years or whatever, but she gave me a bunch of really good punk albums when I was in junior high. And that didn't have anything to do with any taste in hardcore in the future, but when I was just an ed, like literally when you first hit puberty and you're like, fuck the world. I remember I was wearing like these red and black Converse, and I had this like English special edition record of a Dead Kennedy's record and like Black Flag and stuff, but like that didn't evolve into anything. I listened to it like in that era of my life, and then after that I just didn't.
Oh, I got really bad into it, and it really hit. So this would have been like almost at the end of my freshman year of high school. I was the kid walking around in camo cargo shorts. I had a Misfits t-shirt that I wore like almost every day, and I had a fucking like shitty mohawk for like 3 months.
Okay, so that
was my Under Oath, Madball, and then damn dude, my third one I may have to give it to a hip hop influence because like I got really into rap after. It wasn't when I didn't discover Biggie at the time. I had listened to Biggie previously.
I never knew who he was.
Yeah, but like I got really, really into the Ready to Die record like right around that time, and I still fucking jam that record 24/7. So I'll have to give it up to Biggie specifically fucking Ready to Die, because that record is amazing.
Dude, you've got all this cool shit that you're coming up with, and I'm like, 18s.
Well, that's why I said, like, I'm sticking with the stuff that influences me now and I still listen to now, but there's so much other shit. Like, that's when I first started getting into ska, and I started listening to, like, Real Big Fish.
I can't believe
and
you have not talked
Streetlight.
about ska this entire fucking
I know.
time.
I thought I was going to give the last one to ska, but I had to give it to hip hop.
Look at the shit that he's wearing. Is that not the most, like, rude boy shit you've ever seen? Like a Hawaiian shirt over a band shirt? You skanking ass
Dude, I was...
bastard. I don't want to call you bitch because you've been so sweet to me on the
I
podcast lately.
But yeah, I was really bad. I was really into ska. The weird thing about ska is, like I said, the era is really weird because technically I was really more into like the heavier stuff, kind of like I was into the more like swoop your hair and scream shit at the time. And then
But that was cool then, dude.
Yeah, I didn't really get into ska super hard until like mid high school.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started listening. I mean, I listened to it in freshman year, but like sophomore year and junior year, I was really into Real Big Fish and Streetlight Manifesto and there's this band called the Planet Smashers I really liked.
Dude,
and,
I feel like you probably like saw a trombone in the hallway and you're like, ha, like hell yeah, like.
Well, except for I was traumatized by marching bands.
So hold on, traumatized by marching band but love ska.
I know, it's so weird. Well, it's a totally different thing.
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
but
it's that's hard to explain. But yeah, so like ska was like a huge fucking thing for me at the time too. And like, dude, even like my more emo-y shit, like of course I listened to My Chemical Romance and was super into My Chemical Romance. I listened to Aiden all the time for a while.
I was never makeup emo. I was never makeup scene. Yeah.
See them. I hit the makeup stuff for a little while, but this was like pre like Blood on the Dance Floor and Black Veil Brides though, so I didn't get that era. But I was into Aiden for a little while. I was into.
I mean, those bands kind of were the pioneers of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and like I'm trying to think of if there's any other really weird ones. I like Stretch Armstrong at the time.
Well, that's a cool one though, dude. I mean, those. Speaking of Blood on the Dance Floor, back in my days of being a runner, I drove their producer around for like 3 or 4 days, and his name was James Egbert, and he was just a regular ass little tiny little white dude. And every now and then we would meet up with. I'd have to take him to like he would meet up with. He was actually doing a DJ set for one of the pre or post shows. For it was one of the third string festivals that I was running. But I had to drive him around all the time with just a plain ass white dude named James Egbert, and it was just so weird that he was like the mastermind behind fucking Blood on the Dance Floor. And then we would drive him up to the members of I would have him go meet up with the guys, whatever. And it was like Davey Vanity or whatever their names are.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, dude, what are these people fucking doing? It's not about what they're wearing. I'm just like, man, this is so makes me so uncomfortable.
But if you think about it, dude, like everybody, like we listen to so many like weird ass people like that though, because like the Used were kind of like that. AFI was kind of like that. Like,
okay, so you had what do you have so far? So is this from this was this Under Oath, was this era or
yeah? So this era was Under Oath, Madball, and then I gave it to Biggie for the last one. Yeah, go ahead and do your three.
No, it's okay. No, I love talking about this shit. Literally, I can get lost in it for hours. And so this is weird for me, and this is really hard for me to put into 3. So I might have to throw in like one more. But this
I added like 20. So.
But like this was a very transitional period for me.
Yeah.
Because in a quick couple of years, and this is all because I heard that Blink record. I heard the Blink record, and then I started listening to a lot more like emo bands. Like I started getting really into like Taking Back Sunday and shit. Like, dude, when Taking Back Sunday was still fucking cool.
Yeah.
I was getting into them.
I was getting into Taking Back Sunday at the time too as well.
So it was that, and then that kind of led into. So I guess we'll say like I was.
You
listening,
have to give it to Taking Back Sunday.
Oh no, for sure. Oh, dude, for sure.
Your first one has to be Taking Back
I've punished you like our whole friendship with Taking Back Sunday. So Taking Back Sunday is a big one, and a big part of that is I remember watching them. Back when MySpace ruled the world, they did like a MySpace sponsored live performance video of them doing the song 180 by Summer, and that it was just the most beautiful thing. And I still watch that video regularly as a grown man. But Taking Back Sunday was one. And I got led into more like the more emo type of stuff because I come off that Blink record, and then that Plus 44 record was pretty much the same type of darkness, which nobody ever gives credit to that album. That Plus 44 record, dude, is like if I'd never heard Blink, that would be such a good fucking album.
Is that the one that has is it Lycanthropy?
Yes,
on it?
yeah. Lycanthrope is on that. I'm very grateful, by the way, that in that era. That was a very short-lived band. Not many people got to see them. I drove to San Antonio with my dad to go see them. Well, my dad drove because I was, 13 or whatever, or 14, whatever. But anyway, so Taking Back Sunday's the big one. But when I say transitional, I was getting really into like I slowly got indoctrinated into like metalcore, and I'm talking like the epitome of like mid 2000s metalcore is like and then you harmonize that on the next part. So it started like bands like Taking Back Sunday, and then I started listening to like Silverstein and Census Fail. So Census Fail is going to be a big one.
Dude, Silverstein is a major one for
Yeah,
me too.
absolutely. So like, oddly enough, I met Devin because we both of our bands played an 8th grade talent show, and his band covered November, and the singer, dude, the singer was fucking dude, this guy, I swear I have this DVD somewhere. I have to upload it. The singer of their cover band called Throwback. It was, Devin from Findings.
Yeah.
It was Cody that I lived with him from Python Madness.
Yep.
And the fucking singer was Scott Hoying of Pentatonics fame, singing a Silverstein song. So a Grammy Award-winning artist. But less Silverstein, more Census Fails, really, because I mean they had just like, dude, the angst. God damn it!
Thank you, Patrick.
I'm such a bastard. They had like the scream stuff and like the very mild breakdowns, which started making me get into more like I wanted more stuff that screamed. So there was like Taking Back Sunday, there was Census Fail, and then I started getting into more metalcore bands. Speaking of the Mardell era. And I remember the first time I heard 94 Hours by As I Lay Dying, I was in the back of my parents' car, and I was like, fuck, this just goes. So it's like As I Lay Dying was a huge one. But at the same time, I was still listening retroactively to these bands. What is this era? Where does
Yeah, this era falls with like 7th to 9th grade, like
Perfect.
beginning of 7th to end of 9th grade.
Perfect. So like I was still coming off the Blink thing. It was like Taking Back Sunday. There was Census Fail, obviously. There was As I Lay Dying. And, God, God, dude, there's so many. I was listening to so much music, but at this point too, amidst listening all of these things, I was in a really bad Nirvana phase to where I was literally in a Nirvana cover band when I was in 9th grade called the Memoria. like in Comes Yours, like Memoria. And but I guess just being a hormonal teenager, I was listening to everything from like I was really like not even 90s music, it was just Nirvana.
Yeah.
I was ultra Nirvana. I was ultra into like
Well, you like the Melvins too, right?
Oh, dude, I fucking love the Melvins.
Yeah.
I mean, but I wasn't listening to like fucking Mudhoney or anything. I was just like, or like the Meat Puppets. I literally was just into those few bands.
I've had that phase before.
But yeah, it was bad. Like to the point where I was like reading Kurt's journal and I was like, I get it, man. And like how fucking kids are. Dude, like, dude, I'd be like highlighting shit and I'd be like, dude, that's so spot on. But it was literally a mixture of those. But like really, that's when I started transitioning into heavy music before it gets to the next phase of whatever.
Yeah. So. Yeah, God, that phase is so hard to nail down. Even the next phase is going to be hard to nail down too.
Dude, the last one's even harder though because that's literally like when you're like puberty as fuck and you're just listening to everything and relating to everything.
Like while you've been talking, I've been trying to think of like what I'm going to say. And do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You go for it, man.
Okay, so
what is this? Clarify this era first.
This era, I'll give it to since we ended at 9th grade. We'll do beginning of 10th grade. Probably we'll give beginning of 10th grade until like I won't say all the way until past like when you're 19 because like once I hit 19 I hit like a completely different like weird branch off phase where I was just basically doing the emo thing for a while. So I'll give it from like 9th grade to like when you turn 19.
And like we all listen to a lot of things, but I'm trying to give the most influential.
Yeah, I'm trying to like narrow it down too to like what influenced me to listen to other stuff and whatnot. So,
dude, I just remember so many of these bands sitting in the back of my parents' car, like where we're driving and like looking out the window and like pretending I'm in a music video, being like, my life's like, dude, my life was so good. Then it was literally like I didn't have a worry in the world, but I remember just being in the back of the car, like, oh my god, my life is so terrible. Just because like some band was like, make sure to have hope or something, and I would just be like, oh.
No, it's because you were listening to Hawthorne Heights all the time, and you were like, "Get my wrist in black my eyes."
Well, no, like a big part of it was Census Fail being like as the razor cuts the soft spot on your heel, and I was just like, oh,
I feel that.
Like I fucking hate my parents, dude.
So anyhow, so I. once again, this is gonna be really hard because high school was just like so fucking random. I won't give a ska band. I was gonna give a ska band one of these, but I won't because I just went into my fucking tangent about ska. But the first band I'll give it to is, and I'll have to explain why. But it's this band. Hopefully other people have heard of it. It's called Minus the Bear. Did you ever? I've played them for you a few times, right?
Doug, are you? Doug, don't even act for a second like you got me into Minus the Bear, dude. Do you know the guitar player was in
Oh
Botch?
yeah. I forgot that. I forgot that you were all about Botch.
The
for a
Dangerous
while.
Game at Crisco Disco, boy.
Yeah. So, and the reason that I give it to Minus the Bear is once again I got into
Oh,
Minus the Bear.
Crisco Twister. Sorry.
Yeah, Crisco Twister. The reason I got into Minus the Bear, I got into them freshman year, but I bought. So I was in band, like I said, I was in marching band, and every year we went on a band trip. And so how a band trip worked is that one year you'd be in state and one year you'd be out of state. So my freshman year was the out of state year. We went to New York, and randomly at one point we went to a mall in New Jersey, and I found the Highly Refined Pirates CD, which is their.
That's my favorite album by them.
That's like their second record. I
That was
believe.
earlier in the career, but that is my favorite album
It's
by
my
them.
favorite album too. So that record, obviously, the next year was my sophomore year, and I turned 16, and I got my family minivan as my first car. But that's when I first started driving, and that record became like what you listen to when you're cruising. You know what I mean? You know, like I'm sure everybody had this era where like you just get in the car and you go drive, and like you know whether you're driving to go meet up with your friends or whatever, you just have like the first like zen moments.
Just
of
cruising,
just
yeah, like
cruising.
driving just to drive, yeah.
And so that record was like the driving record for me, and I would just
So good.
blare that record, dude, all the time. I fucking love that record. But that's my first one from that era. Second one, god damn, this is gonna be rough. I'll give this second one to a band that I started getting into more towards the end of my high school career, but this kind of started the downward spiral that would be what really led to me and Pat meeting and you know being in a band together, which was I got into the Wonder Years when I was 17, I believe.
That was when like Get Stoked on It
Yeah.
came out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they had like keyboards and were still kind of easy core a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
this was definitely pre-Upsides because I remember Upsides coming out. So yeah, it was Get Stoked on It, and so like and I lump other bands into that too.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, yeah.
So like I gave it to the Wonder Years, but another big one for me that was I have to lump it into the same one. I'm gonna have to give it a 50-50 split for that pop punk era. Was, believe it or not, Transit, and the reason that Transit was like so major for me was because when we were doing the Warehouse or at the Warehouse, they played the Warehouse.
Yeah.
Like
With Man Overboard and
Yeah.
Fireworks, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
it the same show? That's
Yeah.
fucking dude. That's fucking crazy to think
that-
that was the same bill.
But that like yeah, like that was like pre the record that came out where the song was at the Super Bowl and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like this was pre all that, and like I had been listening to, I believe it was "Stay Home" was what the record was called.
Man, I don't remember. I didn't get into Transit till way later. Till way later.
And that's how most people were. But I just remember like I was like one of the very few people that were like legit into Transit when they came through, and like I really loved that band, and like that band for some weird reason means a lot to me, but I don't know. It's just lumped into that like weird era. So anyway, that's the easy core pop punk stuff, and then the third one. Damn, I was gonna give that third slot to a ska band, so it's hard to think of like who else I would give it to.
Like, meh, 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 meh.
I'm not kidding. I would give it to the Boston.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Boston.
I'm not joking at all.
Well, they're also kind of like they're a good blanket band because their sound was very covered a lot of bases in that era.
Only some of their stuff though. Their stuff was.
I know
actually-
I know their biggest songs because I don't listen to ska. Yeah.
But like oddly enough, they were like very like they got their initiation into music was in the 80s Boston hardcore scene.
You know what's weird? A lot of weird subgenres were born out of the hardcore scene, which I'll
Yeah.
get in a little bit into hardcore in my next phase.
Yeah, their vocalist Dickie Barrett was like a huge like hardcore kid that was going to shows, and you could tell just by looking at him that he was like that. But no, the Bostons were like major influence on me for my ska for the type of music that I wanted to play when I was playing ska, I wanted it to be like the Boston's. I mean, I kind of like I didn't want to overreach and try to play like Streetlight, because Streetlight, like they're like the pinnacle of fucking well, and their musicianship is just fucking amazing. Like
fast as shit,
those
too.
guys are insane. But I didn't want to go too cheesy with it. Like, you know, Real Big Fish, they're a fucking amazing band, but they're really cheesy a lot of the time. Like they're really like, hi kids.
Well, I feel like,
like
the tongue-in-cheek type of stuff is very popular in parts of that.
Yeah, but I like that mid, like semi-serious, semi-goofy, like I find that version of ska, and you can lump a lot of bands into that. I mean, I gave it to Boston's, but like Madness is like that, and like
well, even like I was into I don't like ska, but I had an interest in Operation Ivy because I loved Rancid.
Operation Ivy.
I loved Rancid, like the Nihilism era of dude. That shit was so cool because I wanted to be punk so bad.
That Operation Ivy record, I just remember listening to it. And like, so my friend group at the time, like my friend group were the ones that were really into like, they were the ones that kind of helped blossom the Minus the Bear love. They liked Circus Survive a lot. You know, we were listening to Dance Cam and Dance a lot and stuff like that. But we also listened to ska. But for some reason, I seem to be the only one to latch onto the Operation Ivy record. Like, I don't know how that happened, but everybody else, like they I don't think that they didn't listen to it, but I just like for probably like a good 3-month span, I'd only listen to that record over and over and over again.
To be fair, at our age, you had to kind of already be a Tim Armstrong fan at our age to listen to Operation Ivy. And I also, at that time, I'd read like the Green Day biography, and they talk about Operation Ivy so much and like Gilman and shit. So,
Green Day is where I got Operation Ivy from.
But we have to move on to the next.
Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn anyway.
So that phase for me is really weird because again, got more metal. But so like for example, beginning of this phase, I actually, in terms of the music scene now, I would have been, my music taste would have been so cool. Back then, it was like amidst the scene core phase, so this would not make me cool. But I had a friend named Kale who had nothing to do, Kale, I love you, man, I miss you to death. Kale had nothing to do with the hardcore scene. It was literally all just stuff he found at home. He showed me a hardcore band. So when I was when I was in 2007, I was a sophomore in high school. He showed me Have Heart, which is what got me into melodic hardcore. He showed me Have Heart, which those shows, dude, I don't know how Pat Flynn doesn't get killed because there's literally 10,000 people piling on him. Anyway, before I go on a tangent, Have Heart, he showed me Have Heart, and this is blanket. This is going to be one thing. Show me Have Heart, show me Botch, which plays into Minus the Bear.
Minus the Bear, yeah.
I met Brian Cook from Botch when I saw Russian Circles. I was like, hey, man, weird question, but you're in Botch, right? And he was like, oh, yeah, no one gave a shit. And I was like, dude, I worship you. And then a band called, dude, man, I would have been such a fucking cool person back then. But he also got me into a band called Cursed, which is, dude, just the hardest, most bass deep, like metalcore, like early metalcore, hardcore type of thing. So I was really into that era. He got me into hardcore. So I was getting into heavier and heavier music, and I was listening to even like deathcore and shit.
Yeah.
But that completely got obliterated because Blink-182 reunited in 2009. So I remember I had like a fucking aneurysm the night. My friends were all like, oh my God, dude, Tom went on the Grammys, they announced the reunion. Go look at the website. And I remember I was just so fucking happy.
Yeah, we went to the show on that first tour back, the one that was at
Gexa in 2009.
Yeah.
And that was just like a hit show, but like, and then the next one they played in Dallas the day Neighborhoods came out. So it's so cool to say that we saw them on an album release date. Anyway, they get back together, and that pretty much, I was so into metal and I was so into hardcore at that point. Not like all hardcore. Like I liked the bitch ass talk about your feelings hardcore. Like I loved like Verse and Have Heart and all that shit.
Same.
And I liked Comeback Kid a lot too. But like the less cool ones. But anyway, that not destroyed, but I pretty much put heavy music on a shelf at that point because Blink was back, my childhood was back. I was so excited. And that was also right in the midst of the fucking Defend pop punk era. Mm-hmm. So I'll just say the heavy hardcore music is like one, and then the next one is going to be of that era, getting towards the end of high school, is fucking 4 Year Strong, because they were kind of the face of easycore at that point. Like, dude, they put out 2 records, but like,
so good,
dude.
Both of those records are fucking fantastic.
Rise to Die Trying, and then what was that other record called?
It's not Enemy of the World.
Enemy of the World.
Yeah,
it is. It's the one that has the 4 Year Strong Sucks song on it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember going to see them at that point. They were taking bands like, dude, Trapped Under Ice on tour. They were taking bands like The Bled on tour. And it sucked because I was the only one in that room that loved The Bled. And I forgot to talk about the Blood earlier. I was the only one that was like yelling lyrics into the mic and stuff because everyone in the room was like, "Who are these fucking assholes?" They were like went from like going on the Project Revolution tour, like top of the world, to like playing a bar and nobody knew who they were. It was so sad, but they were such a good band, and they'll inevitably play a fucking reunion show, whatever. So I'm gonna say the heavy music for the first one. The second one is going to be 4 Year Strong, of course, and then I'm having a lot of when I
It's a very hard era.
very, very hard era because
difficult.
I was kind of all over the place. So I mean, you and I were both playing in an easy core band. We played shows together every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like 4 Year Strong, Kid Liberty, Set Your Goals, like all that shit was just everything. And
Dude,
then
Set Your Goals, that fucking record.
oh yeah, and then the third one is probably going to be. I guess was a huge influence. Actually, Findings was named after one of their EPs. It's probably going to be It Prevails.
Okay, yeah.
They put out a new song recently that I like, but it's different. But
Yeah.
It Prevails was such a big influence on me then because I was still into kind of the lighter stuff, but I still had the influences of the melodic hardcore bands I was in, and they're kind of a blend of that. They're kind of very much a niche taste, which is probably why they never blew up. But It Prevails was a big one then, amidst all the easy core bands, and that was going into like my freshman year of college. So I was like 19, 20.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So I mean, and then we have the one last era left, which is basically from then up until now. And I'll try to go quick, like, you know,
I'll try to do the same.
because we're running low on time. We need to skedaddle here shortly. But first one I'll give it to is going to be Daylight. Obviously for me, major influence on the music that I wrote. Like major influence on so much for me. They became Super Heaven later, but they were Daylight when I was listening to them.
I liked the Daylight era a lot more.
Yeah, it's so good. So I have to give one up to Daylight. Second one, I'll give it up to. I will lump it all into American football and just give it up to American football. Obviously, this was like the era where it was like the resurgence of when they re-released the original self-title.
Well, and then
which was
LP2 came out in, what, 2015?
right, but I think the re-release came out in 2012 of the first record. So American football, because American football led me into liking stuff that I like now, like Covet, and some of the more mathy type shit that I like now.
That's also right up your alley.
Yeah.
You love like I like the twinkle stuff, but you love like this music's complicated to listen to type shit.
The boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And then the third one I'll give to this one. So I was introduced to this band by our friend Jonathan from Waco, and this is another one of those doo-doo-doo-doo bands, but it hands down one of my favorite bands of all time. It may be my favorite band of all time, but they're a Japanese band. They're called The Band Apart. They're like,
dude, we used to jam them at the warehouse all the time. So good,
dude, insanely good. I still have I have their records on my phone. Like,
oh, dude, I forgot about Band Apart completely,
dude. I can't go a certain amount of time still without listening to Man Apart.
Dude, you and I, like, I don't dance, and I'd be dancing in the warehouse.
Dude, it's so good.
Then with, like, what, Bad Rabbits or
Jonathan,
whatever?
if you ever listen to this, thank you so much for introducing me to that band.
No. Jonathan, you unfollowed me on Twitter about a month ago, and I checked my own followers, you fucking piece of shit. Follow me back again, Jonathan, I swear to God, I saw that shit. I knew what you did. Jonathan, I know what you did, dog.
But yeah, those are my three.
Okay, so I'll fire mine off. One, I'm just going to say the emo blanket, like you said. Obviously, being influenced by the things we were in, like the post-hardcore bands.
So what's your one main influence for the emo blanket?
For the emo blanket, oh fuck, man.
Because I had to give mine to Daylight.
That I haven't. Are you talking about more modern emo?
Yeah, like what we ended up starting to play later on. Because Daylight is what led to like Township and stuff.
Okay,
like that.
well, actually, this was going to be one of them. This band. They say that after you turn 23 is when you stop being able to find new music as well, and when you this is just bullshit psychology, but they say it's a lot harder for you to really get into something. But there was an album and this makes me sound like such a bitch, but this album actually made me tear up. So for the past like 3 years, it's taken over my life completely, and that's the Hotelier's Home Like No Place Is There, or whatever.
Yeah.
That album,
that is a really good record.
That album has completely taken over my life the past couple years. I'm still spinning it all the fucking time. Dude, that record is so lyrically heavy and so musically not too complicated, but just complicated enough.
What's that one song that I really like off that record?
Probably your Deep Rest or something.
Yeah, Your Deep Rest.
But that record that's one of the few records that I've discovered in adulthood that from start to finish is just like moves me, and I still listen to it all the time.
Yeah, your deep breath kicks you in the nuts for sure.
Yeah,
That's
man.
like
And well, dude, even like the introduction
tearjerker.
to the album, like, I mean, he'll talk about like realizing stuff later and just being like, "Fuck," like it's hard to describe how good that record is. You got to listen to it. But out of all the emo bands, that's the one. I mean, Tiny Moving Parts is probably second place, but I don't spin them regularly. I mean, of course, like for the mainstream side of that, there's still like Taking Back Sunday and shit that I still listen to.
Yeah.
I'm no longer a Blink-182 fan of the Matt Skiba era. Like, it just sucks to turn in that fandom card, so that's different.
That sucks too, because I really liked Alkaline Trio.
Dude, Alkaline Trio's still putting out some of their best shit, so I get it, man. It's Mark Hoppus, and they still got to make money. I understand. It's just not for me. But anyway,
You're still on your one though.
so there's one. Sorry, man. I could go off on that shit all day. Another band. This is gonna sound really dumb, but as you know, I've always had a weird soft spot for deathcore. There's a band out right now called Spite, and they're so angry, and that's all I've been listening to. Like,
Hell
dude,
yeah.
they have like those just edgy lyrics, like I spoke to God and asked him to erase my mind, and just like shit about being evil and shit. I can't explain. I just have a soft spot for a fucking breakdown, and maybe that's just my early teenagerhood coming through. And really, I mean, the last one, man, there's really not a lot new. It's really been, I mean, if we're going to take all emo aside, because that's 90% of what I listen to, there's Spite, which I've been just spinning Spite constantly. And then, really, man, like, a lot of, for the third one, it's been just rehashing everything previously. So I still listen to a lot of stuff I listened to growing up. I try really hard to force myself to listen to and like new bands, because I can listen to Taking Back Sunday forever, but I know that I'm missing out on so much if I don't. So really, it's going to be like Blanket Emo, we'll say the Hotelier and Associated Acts, Spite, I can't explain it, and the third one is really just going to be everything mentioned previously. I mean, that's Half Heart, that's It Prevails, that's Blink-182, that's Glassjaw, that's, everything. I feel like I've the best thing, we have a friend named Neil that we used to work with. I talk to him about music every day. Dude, you would love his music taste, by the way. You got to talk to this dude. He and I talk a lot about how it's made it easier for us, especially in adulthood, to truly appreciate music by not being like, I'm not going to listen to that shit. Like, dude, if I can't admit that I have such a soft spot for edgy deathcore, then just as much as I love, Have Heart or even, it's weird. It's kind of a little bit more blanketed in my adulthood, but it's all influenced by the previous things we talk about.
By the way, I kept out local bands on purpose. I don't know if you.
Yeah, we'll go into a spiral, man. I did not want to get into it.
I 1000% kept out local bands, because there's plenty of local bands that I fucking love. But
I will plug real quick. Shouts out Resonate, love you, Hunter, and
yeah.
also shouts the fuck out that new Absence of Mind record. If anybody listens to it, go listen to that Absence of Mind record, because any hardcore that I like now, it's got that wavy shit, it's got that weird shit, it's got that phaser, it's got the wah-wah shit. Listen to the new Absence of Mind record. It'll blow your balls off. It'll suck your socks off. It'll suck your socks right off.
It will suck your socks right off. But yeah, that's the game. And so moving forward, we'll make a very shorter
like
version.
A 15-minute
We'll
segment.
do like a quick fire version for guests later on.
It'll be like 3 bands. Go.
Yeah, but no, that was fun. So yeah, that's our music history, kind of. I mean, we did a bit of a.
That actually made
Like
a good
a
episode
quick
for a quick
version.
episode, because
Yeah.
we're about to do the Double Dip podcast, and we're going to see you a little bit later on Jimbo's Paradise.
Yeah. So, but I will. Still going to do the weekly polls. The poll this week, I think the question will probably be, do you still listen to music now that you were into in like early high school? Is probably what it'll be. So it'll be a yes or no poll. You guys can shout out on that. I put the poll up last week. We didn't get a lot of feedback on it, so I didn't really.
Want to know why?
Because you didn't retweet it.
Because I didn't retweet it.
Yes, because you didn't retweet it.
Because we're nothing without @scented Gladbag on Twitter. We're nothing without
Follow
it.
@scented Gladbag on Twitter.
Oh man, if you want your polls to get less attention, dog, then
Whatever, fuck you. But anyway, yeah, the poll will go up. The poll will go up on Sunday, so I'll make sure that that's when you're listening. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to it, the poll will exist and it'll be up. It'll be our pin tweet. And yeah, so that's going to do it for this week. Like we said, we want to keep it kind of short. We've got to go do Jimbo's Paradise, which we will. That
we're about to literally walk out the door to go do that.
We're going to go do that. So, and that should be coming out this month. So we will definitely plug it whenever it comes out. We'll make sure if you guys want to listen to that, we'll shout it out. But yeah, that's going to be it. So make sure to follow, like, subscribe, share, everything, everywhere. We're on Twitter at Podpathetic, Apathetic Podcast on YouTube, Apathetic Podcast on Facebook, Apathetic Podcast on SoundCloud. You can find us on Spotify. You know, we're out there, and just like, share, subscribe, leave us feedback, let us know what you think, and we will be back same time as always next week.
All right, and 90 fucking 90.
90.